I'm sure we've all had a good time watching the leftist meltdown after Donald Trump was elected US president. However, personally speaking, I'm finding it less funny now and am getting increasingly alarmed by how unhinged some of them are.
Done! I'm done! I'm done! I'm done with you! I'm done with you and your mother and your sister! I'm just done with all of this!
It's seeming to me that some of these people aren't just upset, but fundamentally they're not very well. One prominent case is the Guardian newspaper is offering counselling to all of its staff after the Trump election result. Counselling? What for? Nothing's going to change in your life at all. In fact, it's not even in our country. Yet on deeper contemplation, it became clear to me that leftists are like this not because they actually fear anything happening to them physically, but because people like Donald Trump represent to them a change in how they understand the very world itself. In order to understand this, we need to get in the head of a progressive. Central to their ideology is that we're on an upward spiral of progress. We must be tolerant to every form of diversity, loosen every single boundary we had in the past, and eventually humanity will join together in perfect equality, having a big old party at the next Pride March. In such a worldview, they tend to have a Disneyfied version of good and evil. They view evil as anything that's not left-wing, and they view any problems that are actually out there in the world as stemming from us ourselves. What I mean is, if the progressives see some young black lad causing trouble in London, to them, the black guy isn't really responsible. He's simply the product of the environment around him. Now, while we should factor in things such as environment when trying to figure out how the world works, the progressive doesn't do this for noble reasons. They do this because it allows them to have a safety blanket in how they read reality. This is why leftists love a good platitude, things such as Islam is a religion of peace. It's not that they necessarily think that that's true, it's that they prefer it to be true, so they demand that you must believe it because it makes the world a more palatable place. This has led to the development of what are known as luxury beliefs. These are essentially ideas that don't really map onto reality, but are very popular among leftists because they're sheltered by their own wealth. Yet when you look at the world as it is, you see that evil can work through any individual in any group. It's not specific to white privilege or anything of that sort. You also realise that traditional masculinity, something that leftist progressives really hate, is necessary in order for men to deal with the hardships of life, become good providers, and to protect their families. If you're looking at life as it really is, you also have to realise that immigrants aren't all sweet, innocent little bunnies, and some cultures really are better than others. Now, the instances I just gave aren't political examples, these are just the harsh realities of life. Yet because the progressive mind seeks to avoid the harsh realities of life, it conceptualises such facts of life as hateful or rooted in fear. You see this in the Guardian's headline after Trump won as well. They state fear triumphs over hope. It's especially ironic they call it fear, given their staff need counselling to handle Donald Trump's election. But again, they do this to present their political opposition as somehow evil, dysfunctional. And this sets up a sort of secular progressive moral theology. Us, on the left, are good. Those Trump voters are evil and bad.
I know that, like me, many of you will be feeling fearful this morning. His relentless attacks on migrants, his racism, his misogyny, his homophobia, it leaves many in our communities feeling threatened.
This is KLA Dena, by the way, leader of the Green Party, and even if we accepted her mad opinions about Donald Trump here, what difference does it make? He lives in America. You're in the UK.
Together we curse the darkness, yes, but we also light candles to mark our unity and the shared power of radical hope that comes from resistance. Resistance to Trump, resistance to fascism, and resistance to all those who seek to divide us.
And she's engaging in the same dynamic I just mentioned. She's using all of the buzzwords, politics of hate, seek to divide us, etc., etc. Essentially what she's saying is that she's frightened of reality and she needs a scapegoat. Yet at the root of this is the shadow that progressives don't want you to see. Why is it that they get so upset about Donald Trump and other countries with European origin peoples? After all, there are much worse governments, much more authoritarian governments in the world, in China or Saudi, and they don't need counselling about that. They don't need to make soppy videos about that. I would wager that this is because subconsciously they actually have an ethnic bias. They view minorities from different parts of the world as almost like their pets, people who can't quite formulate the same political worldview as them. I would wager that this is because subconsciously they actually have an ethnic bias. They view minorities from different parts of the world as almost like their pets, people who can't quite formulate the same political worldview as them. After all, they'll complain about how terrible the Western world is for quote-unquote controlling women's bodies despite having an incredible amount of licentiousness, but when it comes to Islam and women wearing burqas, they're absolutely silent. And this is why they'll never call out authoritarianism in China or women's rights in the Muslim world. It's because fundamentally they view such people as oppressed, or have to view them as oppressed in order to deal with the harsh realities of life. Sadiq Khan was engaging in exactly the same sort of nonsense, which is especially ironic given the state of London. Why, oh why, is he complaining about the president of another country when we have a rape being reported every hour in London? Gang violence is absolutely everywhere, and even Labour MPs are getting mugged. As crazy as it may sound, to the progressive mind, actual dangers in London that pose a real threat to them aren't something that they worry about. Why? Because to them, London is diverse, and diverse means good. So while London may be dangerous in reality, it's not in their ideology, and they feel much more comfortable with their ideology because that's what tells them that the world is safe and that they're a good person. This is why they hate Donald Trump and anybody else on the right who exposes the harsh realities of life. I think this may lead to a psychological breakdown for many of them because they have to take in realities that they've otherwise sidelined. Yet the problem is they never face up to these harsh realities, they just go further into the ideology which gets crazier and crazier, and then everything in the world to them seems quote-unquote fascist. We will have to accept that many Europeans simply won't be saved from progressivism. The whole movement has become a pseudo-religion and massive safety blanket. But I do believe as things get more chaotic in our modern world, more people will be willing to move away from the left, and for that we do need to try and be patient with those of them that are willing to listen and have a calm discussion. These are just my views, however. Do let me know what you think down below, and do consider subscribing to the channel.